to me is the new Jeep Trackhawk, an SUV for people who want Hellcat levels of power, something that can tow 7,200 pounds and smoke a Mercedes SLS AMG down the drag strip. Does having this much power in an SUV make sense? Absolutely not. I've fallen head over heels in love with it. This just might be the ultimate daily driver. The Grand Cherokee range spans all the way from the $30,000 Laredo with a 3.6-liter V6 all the way up to the $86,000 Trackhawk. Now, while the mid-range Grand Cherokees look classy and suitable for driving to work, the Trackhawk looks like a muscular brute ready to take down sports cars on a roll race. Just look at the front bumper, for instance. We've got this massive grille allowing it to suck in 30,000 liters per minute of air. And in the center of the grille, we have this massive sensor for lane departure warnings and adaptive cruise control. Under the massive vented hood of the Trackhawk lies a 6.2-liter supercharged V8 that cranks out 707 horsepower and 645 pound-feet of torque. Yes, an SUV with 707 horsepower. Is that necessary? Like I said, absolutely not, but it's freaking awesome. Come around to the side and typically you'll see the words Grand Cherokee here with Trackhawk just below that, although those badges have been removed to make it seem a bit more like a sleeper, although you're probably not fooling anyone judging by the massive front air intake and the quad exhaust, which you'll see in a bit. Fitted to the rear wheels and the front wheels are massive Brembo brakes that help stop this 5,400 pound SUV from 60 miles an hour to 0 in just 108 feet. There are two wheel options available. We've got 20-inch polished wheels fitted here, and there's also a 20-inch satin black wheel option on the other car. Around back, we've got a massive quad exhaust system, although I'll pretend that I didn't look down and notice that it's actually a dual exhaust system with 4 tips, but never mind, it sounds so good you can forgive that fact. It is actually the best sounding SUV I have ever experienced. Every time you flick a downshift, you absolutely giggle with joy, and if you don't, well, then you have absolutely no sense of humor and don't like having fun in life. Just listen to this thing, watch this. The Trackhawk is seriously quick. Get this, 0 to 60, according to Jeep, happens in 3.5 seconds. The quarter mile in 11.6. Those are supercar numbers of acceleration, yet this thing weighs 5,400 pounds and can very comfortably seat 5. It can also tow 7,200 pounds. So how is it possible? How is it this fast? It's faster than a Lamborghini Urus. It's faster than a Bentley Bentayga, a Tesla Model X P100D, and it's even significantly faster than the X5M that I recently tested. Well, because the vehicle is all-wheel drive and has 707 horsepower. Now, engineering a vehicle with all-wheel drive, an SUV, that has 645 pound-feet of torque was a difficult engineering challenge for Jeep, but they've pulled it off and it has paid serious dividends. The launch in the Trackhawk is out of this world. Now, 0 to 60 is claimed 3.5 seconds, but we've got an open drag strip and a V-Box. Let's test it out for ourselves, shall we? Activating launch control in the Trackhawk is exceptionally easy. All you have to do is make sure the steering wheel is pointed straight, the car is in drive, then you click this button next to the drive selector that says launch on it. Once you're fully on the brake, a little thing pops up that says launch enabled, apply full throttle, you floor the gas, let off the brake, and you're launched to 60 in 3.5 seconds. We're gonna go ahead and cancel launch control because there's one other way to activate it, and it's a lot more customizable. Just like in the Hellcat, we have this list of performance pages. Right now, you can see everything is in track mode. Go into something called race options. When you're in race options, you can actually choose the RPM at which you want the launch control to activate. So we can bump it all the way up to 3,500 RPMs, which will probably spin the tires like nobody's business, or we can drop it all the way back down. The preset is 2400 RPM, so we're going to use that. Another view of all the track mode setups. That is pretty awesome, actually. Let's go into performance pages to see some more data. Here at home, we can see the current horsepower being used, 3 out of 707. We're in neutral. The current gear, G-force, you can add more there. We've got a timer that's very accurate. We're gonna measure this against the V-Box that's set up right there to see how close the 0 to 60 time of the performance pages is with the V-Box that runs on satellite. Different gauges, G-force, as well as engine information. All right, I'd say it's time to launch it. Pulling up to the tree here. Gonna go ahead, straighten the wheel, put my left foot all the way on the brake. Now the torque split is 30% in the front and 70% in the rear using launch control. Ideally, you should have a perfect launch every single time. We're gonna go ahead and click that launch button, apply full throttle. Let's see what the data we got says. 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds on my first attempt. Same exact thing, 0 to 60, 3.6 seconds, quarter mile in 12.4. Now, we will go ahead and run that back. Something to note is it is 88 degrees out, a little bit humid in Texas, so obviously the quarter mile time is going to suffer a bit, but 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, whew, that is quick. Little wheel spin there. Once again, 0 to 60, 3.6 seconds. What's the quarter mile time? 12.1. Definitely with a couple more tries and some cooler weather, that 11.6 is not that far off. Interior-wise, the Trackhawk is nice, but not overwhelmingly so. We've got leather everywhere, some carbon fiber, contrasted silver stitching that looks nice. The seats are very comfortable, especially over long trips. I've commuted in this about 100 miles round trip every single day I've been in Texas, and it is fantastic for cruising down the freeway. And as I showed you, it is very good at going down the drag strip as well. Almost everything is controlled using the touchscreen infotainment center. We've got heated and cooled seats. The climate control works extremely well, which is nice considering it is so hot in Texas right now, although according to all the Texans, it's not even close to hot. If you're an audio freak, I very much recommend getting the optional hardened Karman sound system. It comes with 19 speakers, and the clarity and bass are fantastic. Even if you're listening to Sirius XM, you can tell a big difference from the standard system. And if you have digital gold files or just some uncompressed audio files, it sounds awesome. We have 5 different driving modes that can be controlled via this dial here in the center console. I'm in track right now, which I've driven in quite a bit. The throttle response is crazy. The gear shifts are razor sharp. This got an 8-speed automatic transmission that is very, very responsive. We also have Sport, which is a little less intense than track, obviously. Normal mode, then we have Snow, although a 707 horsepower SUV in the snow is probably not your first choice, but could be fun to do drifts in the snow. And then we also have Tow mode, or if you want to tow your boat. Jeep has done a fantastic job with the lane assist programming in the Trackhawk. Unlike Mercedes, where you have to pull a lever or click a button in order to activate Distronic Plus, this lane keep assist is on at all times. You don't have to do anything, it is always working. You know that if you get this little indicator up on the dash. If it's not working, it's lit up in white, and if it is, it's lit up in green if it's seeing the lanes. The great part is if you accidentally exit the lane, let's say you start drifting, instead of the Mercedes that jerks you back into the center and slams the brakes, it's really jarring and actually scary. In the Jeep, it simply gently pulls you back into the center of the lane and only applies the brakes a tiny bit. Now, one of my least favorite parts of the Trackhawk has to be the paddles, and this is true with the Demon as well as the Hellcat. While the 8-speed automatic transmission itself is fantastic, the paddles are not. Now, the responsiveness when in track mode is really nice. When you flick downshifts, they happen instantly, upshifts as well. But the paddles themselves don't feel nice to pull. Now, they've improved them. They used to be this plastic material that you could legitimately bend with your fingers when pulling the paddles. Now they're this nice metal. However, they're a little bit flimsy. You can rattle them back and forth. And in my opinion, they are in the wrong position. You want paddles at 9 and 3 where you're holding your hands. But if you put your hands right at 9 and 3, the only way you can reach the paddles is if you very much extend your index fingers. What's actually at 9 and 3, now the paddles are only about this long. Then below that at 9 and 3 are buttons to change the channel and up the volume on the radio. Why would they do that? If they made longer paddles that had a nicer actuation feel to them, the car would be improved. Granted, it's a small gripe, has to do with almost all Dodge and Jeep products, but I'm still very much in love with the Trackhawk. What really surprises me with the Trackhawk is how usable it is in all the environments that it attempts to excel at. As a highway cruiser, the suspension is supple, it's soft, it rides over bumps nicely in normal mode. You could drive this hundreds and hundreds of miles with no problem at all. Sure, at 11 miles per gallon city and 17 on the highway, it's not the greatest, but you're not going to get very good fuel economy with a big supercharged V8 anyways. And then when you're on the track, it's great as well. Let's put it back into track mode and see what this thing is actually like around turns. The nose does dive quite a bit under braking because the suspension is relatively soft. We have some decent body roll, and the car does like to understeer, but if you give it a little bit more gas through the turn and steer with the throttle, it's a recommendation of the Jeep engineers that created the Trackhawk. You got 70% of the torque to the rear wheels, so you can mitigate that understeer a little bit, although it is what it likes to do. Overall, I'm incredibly impressed with the Trackhawk. It's everything you would want in a luxurious SUV. Sure, the front dash layout isn't as pretty as something like a Cayenne Turbo S or a Bentley Bentayga, but this only costs about $100,000, whereas the Bentayga is well over 200 grand. So if the Trackhawk is this much fun with 707 horsepower, what is the Hennessy 1012 horsepower Trackhawk like to drive? We're about to find out, because that white one back there in the intro shots, yeah, it's got over 1,000 horsepower in an SUV. So what does this kit cost?
Out the door, the 1,000 horsepower Trackhawk kit's just under 35,000.
So 35 grand plus, I mean, if you got a base model Trackhawk, 86, let's call it 90.
Yeah.
So for 125, 130 grand, maximum 140, you got 1,000 horsepower SUV, and that's less than a G63 or a Cayenne Turbo that are in the 560 horsepower range. So it literally has double the power of both of those cars for the same amount of money. So horsepower per dollar.
To me, it really is the ultimate all-around vehicle. I mean, it's as fast as it can be. You can put your friends and stuff in it. I mean, there's very few other vehicles with 1,000 horsepower you can put a big screen TV in.
Yeah, for real.
Or put your bike rack on the back and go out, mountain biking or street biking or whatever. So it really is all around a pretty amazing vehicle, even from the factory. And then this one that we've done is just perfect. It really is.
I think it's crazy that, yeah, back in 2006, when the Veyron came out with 1,001 horsepower, it blew everyone's minds that a car could have that much power, and it was $2 million. And then fast forward 10, 12 years later, and you've got a family SUV with 1,000 horsepower. That's just absurd.
And you can mail order.
Exactly.
You'd actually depreciate this entire cost the minute you drive the Veyron off the showroom floor.
Literally, yeah, that's insane. All right, so let's see what the first taste of 1,000 horsepower feels like. Wow. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
But apparently, you guys got 2.6 seconds to 60 at one point.
Well, with a properly prepped track and launching it properly, but
and a 10.2 in the quarter mile. I mean, a 10.2 is faster than a Huracan, faster than a 488. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars supercars with 2 seats.
If we go 0.3 of a second faster, we'd have to put a roll cage in it to race that HRA.
I mean, that from a roll, this feels every bit as fast as a Demon does, and that's a purpose-built track car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unbelievable. Well, thank you so much for letting me drive this thing.
Thank you for coming out.
Giving me the Trackhawk for a week as a loaner car. That's better than my Prius loaner car I had last trip.
Yeah, a little bit.
Seriously, from the base Trackhawk all the way up to the 1,000 horsepower Hennessy Trackhawk, this thing is an all-around incredible vehicle. I've got more information in the description below on this Hennessy 1,000 horsepower package for the Trackhawk if you want to check that out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.